Welcome back to another episode of Health is Wealth. And thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. And as always, I am beyond grateful and thankful from the bottom of my heart for each and every one of you who is continuing to tune in to the podcast and tune in to this episode. And I truly hope it brings you value in your life as week to week. I'm just sharing thoughts and words that are going on in my head, things that I'm picking up, learning on my own journey in life, some for the first time, seeing things in a different perspective in hopes it helps inspire you and motivate you and bring value to you. Maybe you come across hearing something for the first time or see something in a different view. And if anything else, maybe just get a chance to know who I am and what I'm about and what mission I am on in life. And so thank you again for being here. Now, what I wanted to talk about this week was this idea of just, achieving the next horizon. And, this idea came from a podcast I was listening to last week with Ed Mylett. And one of his guests that he had was a former Navy SEAL by the name of Rich Davini. And so he was talking about his time in training, right? And how he used certain things to help get through the day to day. Because as you can only imagine just what a day must look like for someone who's a Navy SEAL going through training. I just imagine early mornings, late nights, the intensity of stuff that they're doing throughout the day and so forth. And so this approach to it was really a way to just not feel overwhelmed, looking at the entire day of all these different things to do, but being able to break it down in increments and segments, to tackle kind of one thing at a time. Now, this is interesting because this is not the only former Navy SEAL, and who he happened to be a part of SEAL Team 6. As you all know, the team who was part of the operations to take out Bin Laden, right? And so this is not the only SEAL, though, who I've heard talk about this similar idea and approach to making it through their day, especially when it was in their training and becoming a SEAL, and just advice that they were given, right? And so this idea was just to make it so you don't feel overwhelmed looking at everything. And it was, it was just kind of looking at the next horizon and, looking for the next win in the day. And then just looking at that, forgetting everything else that's going on, and just think about the next thing that you have to do and attack that and win that, and then just move to the next thing. So it was interesting how I've kind of heard them describe this was, instead of waking up in the morning and thinking already that they probably had early morning training and then eat and then training again, and then they got to do this and that in the day, how they looked at it was, first I'm going to set that alarm clock and I'm going to get up, I'm going to get up on time. That's number one for the day. The only thing that matters for me in the moment is that one particular thing, getting up on time. Then the goalpost just simply moves to the next objective, right? They're still not thinking about the entire day ahead. What's the next thing that I've got to do, goal that I've got to set, thing that I've got to win? Okay, I need to get out of bed and make my bed, right? So it's all nice and neat when they come back, after a day of just crazy training, so then the bed's complete, and then the next thing from there would be getting ready, to go to the training, getting washed up, brushing teeth, whatever, getting dressed. And it was just how, that they were taught that this was ultimately the best way you were going to make it through your day, because it allowed you not to feel overwhelmed by the multiple of tasks and things that had to be done throughout the day. Because in a sense, it seems like there's no reason to concern yourself through all the million different things that have to probably go on through the day, especially in their scenario, if the only thing you can do is just the next thing is in front of you. Makes sense? And so, something I really want to think of more myself, to really allow myself to really implement that into my day-to-day and stop thinking about, hours ahead and other things that need to get done in my day, but what's the next thing I've got to do, you know? And so again, this idea behind it is that they put all their focus into what's the next win, you know? Forget about 2-3 hours this afternoon or this late night or evening night. You know, what's the next goal? Okay, the next goal is getting, you know, let's say as an example for them, right, in training was getting dressed and making to train. Okay, boom, did you get there? Did you get there on time? Bam, that's another win. And I think what tends to happen though is if you only focus at one thing at a time, then it's essentially only one monster, one dragon you got to slay at a time versus, you know, when we get overwhelmed because we think about everything that is on our plate. And then when we think about everything that is on our plate, we think about trying to tackle it all at the same time because we're thinking about each individual thing, you know, and it's just a lot of thoughts going on to a lot of different things. And so really this idea is just to focus on the next horizon. What's the next goal? What's the next thing you need to accomplish in the day? And it feels like if that's all you're focused on is just the next goal that you've got for the day, then that's where all your focus and energy is. Then you're less distracted with a million other things that you know you still got to do. But in the moment, in the present, you can only do so much. There's only so many things you can do at one time. And that's what they say. They attributed to them really getting through their training. And that's one thing he said more than anything else. He was like, for anyone who wants to be a SEAL and who wants to do that, you know, he's like, that is exactly how you get through it. And that's how you become a SEAL. You know, you take the day and then you just break it down one thing at a time instead of looking at an entire day of a million things that has to get done. And I think what it really helps with is just, you know, keeping ourselves from being overwhelmed because we are having multiple thoughts and, oh my, you know, I think that's when we get stressed and start to panic, you know, and let things get to us because there's this realization, you know, in our day to day when we're looking at something, you know, that there's all this stuff that has to do and you just feel like you're suffocating and you're feeling overwhelmed. And then there's this pressure because you only have so much time in the day and you got all these other things to do. And that's probably how it can easily get out of control for us to feel that pressure and feel overwhelmed and feel, you know, panic and frantic and manic and all of those different things. So, you know, it was a great podcast that I listened to with Ed Mylett and Rich Davini. And I truly love, you know, this idea of just move the next, you know, to the next horizon, right? And then you'll eventually get through the day. But he's like, you know, if you could just focus on the next win, you know, and not focus on everything else. He's like, you're much more likelier to achieve it, to, you know, to get that goal because that's your only concern. It's not about what can I do right now that's going to, you know, accomplish for something that I've got to do later on in the day. What's the next thing? And then you focus on the next thing from there and the next thing from there. So it's all about just that, you know, instead of looking at the entire picture. But I think about this though to an all areas of life, right? I think about, you know, things that we know we need to get done in life, generally speaking, a project that needs to get done, a task that needs to get done, you know, maybe this thing that we want to do that we know is going to benefit us, you know, make us better, whatever it may be. And oftentimes we look at so many different problems that are going on in our lives, so many things that we're doing, and, you know, we aren't taking it step by step, right? You know, we're looking at the big picture, this big monster, this big elephant of something that needs to get done, of something that you need to resolve, get fixed, and then that becomes overwhelming and stress. And I think if we can use that application to everything in life, you know, it just might make it not seem as scary, you know, because that's why I think we get panicked because things seem so scary because there's a million things going on and I really want to change my life. There's so many things I got to do to try to change me and better me and all these different things. So the idea with all of this and everything is just to focus on the next horizon. Focus on the next win, right? When you get up in the morning, focus on getting up in the morning on time, focus on getting to work on time, focus, and then you just keep doing that one at a time. And he's like, just over time, you just start stacking those wins. But if all you do is focus on one thing at a time and not the other 99 things, he's like, that's how we got through training. That's how you get through training. And he's like, that's one of the biggest things that we were taught, and it's just an applicable, idea and strategy to just life in general. So I truly hope that helps you. It's definitely something I'm going to implement more in my day-to-day instead of looking at all these big monsters and dragons and things that I know I got to get tackled or done, and especially in the day-to-day. I'm just going to focus on what's the next thing I need to do in my day here, and what do I got to do to get there, and what do I got to do to win that or accomplish that. And then when that's a win and that's done, I just simply move on to the next instead of looking at the whole. So thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode, and I'll catch you on the next one.